Hello and welcome back to episode 36 of the Epoch podcast. I'm your host, PerryThePig. With me as always is my co-host here, Dread. Dread, welcome back.
Hello, this is Dread, and in today's podcast topic, we're going to be going over a tier list for all of the uniques that were added in 0.9.2, which is going to be an interesting one as, I'll be honest, they really stepped up their game this time.
They're good, aren't they?
Yeah, there's some really good ones. There's obviously some stinkers, but to be honest, a lot of the stinkers I'm looking here, they're only stinkers because they're associated with bad skills.
There might be one item out there that's like a stinker. I feel like I might have a different opinion than other people do, but I think they really did a nice job with this batch of unique items. Somebody in my Twitch chat said this very well. They said in the past when we've complained about if only this unique item was I know it's class locked, maybe it's class locked like lightning blast. What if it were not class locked literally, but class locked figuratively?
They did a very good job with that. A lot of these
you really want to use an item in one particular way, but you could use it somewhere else, and I think that's a great addition to the game.
Static Shell is a very good example of that.
It's not mage only.
Yeah,
it's so good. I love it. Static Shell is great.
All right.
Are we jumping right in this? Do you want to talk about feelings?
We can talk about what have you been up to the last week, Perry?
So I've been hosting a build contest, and I've kind of left my build behind me a little bit because I think it's kind of hard capped on how good it's realistically going to be. But we've been doing this contest in collaboration with EHG and Aaron Action RPG and Vision GL, and trying to make sweet builds. And then ultimately, Mike is going to select one big winner, and he's going to play that build on the dev stream, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
So I was playing a bleed mana strike thing with a bunch of attack speed and procking Frost Claw off of it to get more hits for the bleed. And I liked the build. It was kind of cool. It's pretty much hard capped at 200k ticks on the dummy, which is impressive for having literally no support at all.
I mean, that's the bar. That's the bar for me.
It is 200k.
Me. Yeah.
But it reminds me of all the builds that I played when I was a brand new player. Man, why is Cinder Strike so bad? Why is crit melee mana strike so bad? It's you look at these skill trees and they have no more multipliers. And this is the perfect example of what something or what a build feels like, what a build looks like when it's good, it's got a good idea behind it, but there's just no more multipliers anywhere, which is kind of cool.
Well, I brought that up, I think a podcast or two ago when we were talking with McFluffin about Frostclaw. It's they don't have that many more damage modifiers, but it still ends up pulling it out in the end because it does things that make up for that, like Glamdringen, for instance. For instance, you were making up for it by having ridiculous amounts of bleed duration.
and tons of small hits. Tons of spark charges and 5 projectiles and 3 hits here, and there's a lot of it.
Yeah.
The other thing that's been going on, so there's that build, and then I'm gearing up for some meme builds to play in the meantime. But the other thing that I've got going on is there were a bunch of data miners who were looking for perfect information about what the LP drop rate is. So if something is 0 LP level, what does that mean? What's the drop chance for these different things? For how much LP drops on them? If something is 115 LP level, what does that exactly mean? So there have been various attempts to get exactly numbers correct in the past, and those are wrong. We thought we had it right this time, and it turns out we're still wrong. So we're back to the drawing board. I put out a YouTube video, and then I had to change the title of the YouTube video saying, hey, this is already wrong information. We're trying to provide perfect information, but we don't quite have it yet. So back to the drawing board for that.
Perfect.
No, it's imperfect. It's specifically not perfect. It is very bad information. What I like about this effort for data mining is this particular thing, knowing what the drop rate is for different LP levels, it really doesn't change your understanding of the game. It really doesn't change what you do. It doesn't make you take different game actions. It's just fun to think about.
I mean, whenever I was looking at the numbers when I was looking at it the other day, right? I was just yeah, that's about what I expected. Yeah, that's what I felt.
Like somebody live on Twitch chat right here is saying, LazzyAboutTools.com has a different set of LP chance numbers based on LP level than the data miners did, and it sounds like what the developers have said is that the LazzyAboutTools.com stuff is more accurate. It doesn't sound like it's perfect, but it does sound like it's more accurate. So it'd be nice to have perfect
the last
information.
Epoch Tools one, he specifically went out of his way to make the little blurbs about each item to be like, oh, this is rare, this is not rare. I like that. That was fun. That was nice. You can hover over them and it will tell you the chance too. But like, I'll be honest, if you just tell me, oh yeah, getting a humming bee with like 1 LP is uncommon, I'm like, okay, I can
weird.
put that in my head. I can put that in my head and be like, oh, okay, that's about like what I would expect.
What it does mean is there are people out there who are like learning what reroll chance is for the first time, and like some of the underpinnings of how Last Epoch really works. Like, what is reroll chance? What are these LP level stuff?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. To me, it's fun to learn how these things are actually working behind the scenes. To a normal player, this is absolutely extraneous information. You don't need this, but I think it's fun to think about.
Yeah. All right, so I should probably start talking about what I did last week.
You
Otherwise
played
we'll be here
3 weird builds this past week.
Okay, all right. So the first build I played last week after the podcast, it was a 35 plus mana regen Velatria's Lightning Meteor Sorcerer because I have been on a warpath to try to get Meteor to function because a few days ago or like a few weeks ago when I was in the Ask the Devs with Mike, we were having a conversation and he was like, Sorcerer is fine because it has like Black Hole and Meteor, that's the whole reason to be a Sorcerer. I'm like, all right, Mike, we're going to put it to the test and we're going to try Black Meteor and we're going to see if we can make it work. And oh my God, it was a terrible time. Like, I'm going to be honest, like, I had to remake that build like 4 times, like the Meteor build. Like, it was just that bad. But we finally found something because it turns out if you go with the over 400 mana, the auto crit, with the Velatris set, stacking as much int as possible, okay? And then you use Arcane Ascendance and you like spam it to like get the increased damage on it and all that, and the more damage against like slowed enemies and stuff like that. All of that combined was enough to make it hit like 500k per meteor on the dummy, which in my opinion, that should be like the lower half of what like a meteor build should be hitting for. And it really does, like, if you watch the gameplay, if I tell you how much damage my meteors are doing versus how much they're doing to Oribus and you're like watching it, you're going to be so surprised. I'm like, it's hitting for like 500k per, and you're going to look at the video. I'm like, wait, really? That doesn't look that much. And like, I don't know what's going on with the boss DR system. I don't know what's going on, but anything when you're playing a big hit build, I'm sure you've noticed this, Perry, but whenever you're playing a big hit build, it just feels awful. It just feels awful. I don't know why. Like on single target for clear, it was amazing. I had fun with that.
I was like, watching your build on clear, like on stream. Yeah. Like the clear really did look good. Yeah. Like it looked like a fun time.
I cast once and 5 meteors come down. Like what else could you ask for, right? But like it was just specifically the single target that was awful. Even though I was hitting for 500k per meteor, the math is there. It's all there. I'm casting meteor every 2 seconds. 500k per meteor, 5 meteors. That's like 2.5 million every 2 seconds. It's like a million per second. That's like what I would call the bottom half of like what DPS is for builds in LE, right? And like it should look fine, but then you go and do a boss and it's just like yeah, I think the funniest thing about that build was the fact I was able to get to 35 mana regen. I think at one point I was messing around with gear and I was able to get to 40 flat mana regen, Perry, just sitting there. That was insane.
How much lightning res did you have?
I had like 300%. You could go way more than that. Like I did not even push it to the extreme.
Man, what if you used Glypha Dominion to give yourself extra res while you're standing on the Glypha Dominion?
You could probably get a very large amount.
Sweet. Oh wait, you're a Sork though.
I mean, you just don't play Sork because Sork. There's almost no reason to play Sork. But continuing on, it proved my point very succinctly, by the way, with the meteor build. Like it takes 35 mana regen just to make Meteor playable, and it's still not good. Like, come on, man, come on, really. And then the next build I played, you can blame all of this on Perry, okay?
Oh, is this the bleed build?
Yes.
Oh, I love it.
I was messing around with Symbol of Demise. Me and Perry have been messing around with Symbol of Demise. So the idea is we sacrifice HP for ward with Twisted Heart, and then we sacrifice said ward for bleed duration specifically. And I was getting to like well over 200 stacks, so it's like 200% bleed duration. And I was playing it with bleed Devouring Orb and bleed Smite, right? And it was so strong that it was able to bring Devouring Orb out from the grave again after it being killed recently, right? And bam, there you go, another Devouring Orb build that works. I'm just like, I blame Perry for that, for bringing that thing back to life. I blame him because he made me play with Symbol, and I'm like, oh, all the numbers are making sense. And then it was like 600k ticks on the dummy with like bleed smite. That's
600k
amazing.
tips, but it's like it's tons of bleed durations, like 9-second bleeds.
Yeah,
and you're
like
cheesing with volatile reversal because you're a tryhard.
Hey, oh, okay, all right, buddy. Hey, the day that they nerf volatile reversal finally for Sentinel is the day that they're probably going to have to rework the entirety of Sentinel because all of Sentinel stuff is balanced around reversal.
Everything's
so
balanced around it.
Yeah,
if you took out volatile
weird.
reversal, it kills like every build.
That build it would have been like 200k ticks on the dummy. Like obviously that's not like amazing or anything. That's like that's like the level that you're at too. But like the thing is, when they kill reversal, they're not gonna like just delete it. They're just gonna make it worse. So it's like maybe you'll be at like 400k ticks,
fine.
right?
It's fine.
Yeah. Now the last build that I played specifically was Smelter's Wrath, Chronostasis, Apostate, Forge Guard.
Did you see the guy on Reddit responded to you?
Yes, I did see that.
The guy who made Chronostasis, who made that unique item in order to make everyone scratch their heads for the next couple of years. He responded to you and he's like, God bless. He's like, this is the build that I wanted to see when I added this unique item again. You made one person very happy.
Oh yeah, I know. I was gonna try to do it with McFluffin with like a terrace path, but with the terrace, like whatever it's called, but ended up being terrible because Rune Bolt does no damage still.
Weird.
But yeah, that build was great. So essentially the idea is use Rebuke to channel to get 3200 plus ward per second with Apostate Sanctuary because it's like 8 ward per second per percent fizz. But it kind of locks you out from using any spells, and all of that combined means that I was like sitting at 10k ward after channeling Rebuke. Now the problem is, even with the insane 500% ward retention that I had on a Forge Guard, by the way, even with that much ward retention, it would instantly go back down to like 5k and sit there for a few seconds or whatever, right? So I was like, well, we have all this ward. What are we going to do with it? I'm like, wait a second. Chronostasis is an item.
Wait a minute.
They buffed it recently because it's adaptive damage and not just fizz or whatever. So you can use it for whatever the fuck you want, all right? And essentially, you'd skim off the upper half of your ward and it would sit at like 4k and use it for Smelter's Wrath. You'd channel Smelter's Wrath and you'd hit for a very large amount because turns out Chronostasis, right, is a lot of flat damage. It turns out like you can get well over like 500 plus flat damage. Mine didn't get that high because my 2 LP Chronostasis min rolled because the game hates me, of course. But overall, it was a very interesting experience, and as Perry said earlier, it was definitely a snooze fest of a build.
Just a total standing still simulator.
Yeah, it was literally just standing still, and oh my god, like I'm gonna be honest, like I almost fell asleep playing that build constantly.
But it looked good. It
was good.
That build you made, like channeling Rebuke with Apostate Sanctuary, and then consuming the ward and like using Smelter's Wrath and getting one big hit, like 3 million damage.
Yeah.
That's gonna be somebody's
playable.
That's gonna be somebody's favorite build.
Look playable. That was the best part about it. Is like I almost felt like I wasn't playing a Forge Guard, and I was so happy. I was playing like a budget Rune Master or something.
No, it's cool. It was a good idea.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot.
Yeah. I think Smelter's Wrath works really well with really stupid meme items because Smelter's Wrath has that auto crit. It has a big AoE. So if you have any weapon that just has a bunch of fucking damage on it but no crit, all of a sudden it turns into really good. Like for instance, I guess I played it with the, what is it called? The regen set, the Shattered Lance set. That build works. Like there's a lot of different versions that works with Smelter's Wrath, but I just love that I'm constantly pushing the limits of Smelter's Wrath and trying to see how I can get the biggest number. And so far, Chronostasis beats out everything else because of how much flat it has. But yeah, that's been what I've been up to this week. And then now I'm leveling a different build, but we'll talk about that later. So let's get into the actual meat of the podcast here. I want to point out here, we're going people get annoyed when we don't do this, so I'm going to do it now. The rules of the tier list, okay? The rules of the tier list. All right. So, rule number 1, we are going to look at the items for the most part with objective power level. So, like for instance, how strong is the item? How strong are the stats on said item? The second rule is we're going to ignore the first rule, and if it's associated with a bad skill, we're going to rule it with the context of said skill, right? Like for instance, the acid flask unique, right? It looks like cool. It's cool, has a lot of good text on it, but then you realize it's associated with the acid flask, and then it kind of just kills your, So we're going to essentially, when we look at items like that have really bad skills associated with them, we're just going to look at this item as just a pile of stats and rate it from that. So those are the rules. That's it. Let's get this puppy started. You want to choose the first one, Perry?
No, not for long. Acid flask forever. Acid flask forever. That's a weird thing to say.
Not for long. Well, they're probably going to rework it. Thank God. We've been talking about it for years now. So I would assume eventually it would happen.
All right. Well, we'll see how we can do with this. I'm going to start with the very first item that I pulled up here. So I've got a list of 21 unique items that were added in patch 092.
Yeah.
And the first one here is static shell.
Oh boy.
Let me pull this up real quick. So, static shell is a generic body armor that any class can use. It is not mage specific. It's got a tiny bit of armor, only 85. It's got more armor against shocked enemies. The baseline is 100% more, and it goes up to 175% more. It's got more lightning damage to shocked enemies, and then it also has some static synergies in case you're playing static as well. What are your impressions of this thing?
This one's annoying as hell because it's terrible for actual static builds. At least the current way you play like the static build I just played, that chest is terrible. It eats up your charges.
Yeah.
It's terrible for actual static. It is absolutely god-awful for actual static. Now, there is a way that you can build static where you get the ward per static charge and all that, and it resets on thing, and then it casts, and you can get a bunch of ward by being hit. That works. That's fine. It makes you play static in a different way. But for actual builds that use static for damage, it is terrible. But that's fine because the rest of the stats on the item are so insanely strong it doesn't matter. So like the 175% more armor against shocked enemies.
More armor!
Like, guys, like, if you're not like a forge guard getting to armor cap or something, this thing is insane. It's absolutely insane for you because every single percent of armor that you get above like 70 or whatever is just works like Path of Exile's resistances, where like every single point gets better and better and better, right? And up until the soft cap. And having that large amount of more is amazing. Now, and of course it comes with 15% more damage. It is like, I'll be honest, if you're playing a ward build, like any kind of ward build, that of course isn't exsanguinous, if you're playing a ward build, this is probably going to end up being your best install item once you actually get LP on it, because of the fact that ward works so well with armor, and this scales your armor to the moon, to like ridiculous levels. Like you could have like maybe 2k armor or something and be bumped up to 6k and be as tanky as like a forge guard. It's insane. I love it.
If you're playing lightning damage, you get more lightning out of it. If you're playing a fire or cold damage build, you use this with Throne of Ambition and you get 2 separate more multipliers for your armor. Oh, it's so good.
One day, it's really weird because it's also introducing that new line of text. This is new, by the way, like new in this patch, where things and items react to things on the enemy. So, like for instance, like like the ignite endurance
that's a good point. Yeah, more armor against ignited enemies.
And those are really interesting because it's a way of giving you those stats without giving you said stats, so that when eventually one day they give us a way to scale damage off of armor eventually, because it'll happen eventually,
Mm-hmm.
it's not absolutely positively broken with static shell, right?
I think
Because
we have
yeah.
like multi-strike right now, like more or damage per armor,
Yeah, but
right?
that's capped, so it's boring.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, but yeah, seriously though, like Static Shell, I think easily like A tier, and I think it would
AS?
there's some really good items on this list. I
Cool.
think I think it would be S tier if the LP level was lower and you could easily get LP on it. The
Yeah.
only thing that keeps it from being like amazing, amazing, like in S tier or whatever, is the fact that the LP level is so high. So like getting like one with like maybe one LP with the mod you're looking for is a pain in the ass. So I think A.
A tier item, we
Mhm.
like how strong it is, we like how generic it is.
I think it's an amazing item. I think it makes you play static in a different way, which is completely fine, by the way. I'm
Or just not
fine
play
with that.
static. True, true.
Or I mean, yeah, that is true. But like it does have insane synergy when you are playing it the way that it's supposed to be played, like the
Okay.
retaliate, like get
Mm-hmm.
hit kind of thing. So I think it's great. I think A tier is a good spot for it because
All
there's
right.
some really, really good items.
I'm worried about how much we're going to talk about the next item. I feel like the first two items are really like
Yeah.
opposed. Because the second
Hmm.
item here, I don't know if you can tell what the image is
I'm
because
waiting.
it's
Oh,
it's maybe not an item that you looked at very often. Probably just saw it
okay.
once and then like never picked it up again. This is called
So,
Alico's Abandon. And
all
this is the
right.
acid flask one. So let me read this off real quick. It's on a
Yeah,
good base
go
type.
ahead.
So it is a rogue only. It is poison res and increased damage over time. It has plus potion slots. It's got movement speed. It has all resistance. It has +2 to level of throwing skills and AoE for throwing skills. That is all it
Hmm.
has on it. It has nothing else on it.
Yep.
No other lines of text. Okay, but it also says throwing an acid flask consumes a potion in order to deal 125 or 180% more damage.
And that also applies all of the consume potion stuff, like summon volatile zombies when you consume a potion and stuff like that too,
That's
by the way.
adorable. Cool. Good.
Well, that's actually very useful because you can use items like the acid flask dagger that give you health back when you use a potion, shit like that. That is
Is
actually very strong with that.
is
Yeah.
it good?
No, it's
Oh,
acid
okay.
flask.
Got it.
So okay, all right. I'm gonna be honest. I wish this was one of those items that they just made generic because there's a lot of different skills that could utilize this. Like for instance, like if you're playing like a sentinel and you want to like use like disintegrating aura, it would be pretty cool with that because you want the area for the disintegrating
That's an
auras.
excellent observation. I like that a lot.
Like that would be cool. Like this is the item that should have been for all classes, while like static shell shouldn't have been probably. I'm kind of surprised at that. But like at the same time, I think like the +2 to throwing skills is probably going to be used the most off of this item because, getting plus levels to shurikens is pretty strong if you're playing a shuriken, like if you're playing the chakram build, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it has movement speed on it. That's a good start, right? Anything with movement speed on it instantly becomes like a high investment, look at me go fast kind of
And it's got
item.
plus to all resistances as well. Like it's got good
Mhm.
stats on it. It's just
Yeah.
not something that I want to
I mean,
use
with
for
a
the build that's
55
written on it.
LP level too, it's going to be hard to actually get a decent LP on it as well. So I'm sorry, it has to go in D tier. It has to go in D tier.
I'd be surprised if this could go any higher than D tier.
I
If
think
acid
if
like
Acid Flask was good,
180% more damage on acid flask, and we're still just
yeah.
like tossing this into D tier.
Well, the problem is if I'm not mistaken, that 180% more damage. I don't believe it works with your shadows when you throw Acid Flask with shadows. So it just becomes very lackluster in that regard because it's kind of anti-synergistic. Maybe I'm wrong with that, but that's how a lot of other stuff works. If I'm wrong, please tell me. But but I agree with Alweezy. I think this is good. 180% more damage of zero is still zero parry. I completely agree. I think that's the point that we're getting across here.
I heard a conversation today in a different Twitch stream talking about flame rates, and they were
Hmm.
arguing about if you trim literally 50% of the damage off of flame rates, is it still S tier?
Yes.
People were arguing about whether this was true or not. And the fact that you're even discussing it means that there's probably a problem there. So like, you look at Alico's Abandon and it's like 180% more damage and you're still just kind of tossing it to the side.
I mean,
it's like there's probably something fundamentally just
there is something fundamentally wrong with Acid Flask. We can go forever about Acid Flask if we want to, but we don't need to right now because it seems like like Mike just said, or whoever's using the Last Epoch Games account when they just rated us, it seems like as though it's going to get reworked. So
how can
it get reworked? But the thing is it's going to be a rework like Swipe, where it was insanely good and ended up making Primalist a much stronger class overall, or is it going to be Surf and Strike? Who knows? So you can go on the next one. We'll keep talking about this if we don't move
It always
on.
surprises me how much fun these tier lists are. Like you get on a tangent so quickly, and it's fun to talk about. What's getting reworked?
Oh,
all right.
We were joking because earlier, where is it? What's up, Reimer, by the way? Said, Last Epoch game, not for long. Acid Flask forever. They said Acid Flask forever, meaning that they're assuming that Acid Flask is going to get reworked.
Or it means that Acid Flask is going to stay where it currently is forever. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
If it does, then it'll be a very unfortunate for the game, but we'll see.
Let's go on to the next unique item here. This next one is I believe it's a mage. It's a mage-only helmet. It's called Apex of Thought.
Oh, I have a bone to pick with this one.
So let's read it off real quick. It's got some mana spent in his ward. It's a mana regen is the implicit.
Perry, you don't have to read it off at all.
Okay?
There's only one stat on it that matters.
The ward decay threshold.
Nope. It's a helmet that has 52% increased ignite duration, and that's what it is.
That's not a bad observation.
It's getting buffed. I don't know, I don't know if getting buffed it would be good enough, Reimer, to make that usable, but we'll see. But yeah,
sir, tier list, sir.
I know, I'm working on it. I'm sorry.
So this item technically says while you're standing on Glyph Dominion, stuff happens. So it says you get ward per second while standing on Glyph Dominion, and then while standing on Glyph, your ignite is converted to fire res shred, your chill is converted to cold res shred, and your shock is converted to lightning res shred. But if you just don't stand on a Glyph Dominion, it simply has ignite, chill, shred duration on it. And ignite duration is obviously the most important thing there. So this is basically just a helmet that has ward decay threshold, I guess, and also has ignite duration. So what do you think about ignite duration helmet?
Added. So the problem with the helmet, I think this would have been amazing before they went and neutered all shred in the game. I think the problem is shred isn't important anymore. It got moved out of the meta succinctly. You don't get 40% more, you only get 20%. And if you're playing a build that wants shred, you're probably going to grab it, right? And you're probably going to have it in a different way. Or you could just not have it, and it's not a big deal. 20% more damage isn't going to solve your damage all of a sudden, especially in the current state of Last Epoch, where damage doesn't matter, and all you need to do is just not die. So the problem with this helmet is it's trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist. No one wants shred right now. No one needs shred. You go get lightning shred from Lagan if you're a lightning build. That's the best spot to get it. You don't need it for this. Also, it's very it's very, what do you call it? What is it called? It's situational, because you're going to put the Glyph Dominion down, you're going to sit on it, you're going to apply your stacks of shred and all that, right? If you want shred in a better way with a better helmet, if you're going to sacrifice the helmet slot for this, just run a Prismatic Gaze. Prismatic Gaze does it so much unbelievably better. It's not even funny. Now,
for someone who told me that this thing only has one line of text on it, you're sure talking about the other lines of text a lot.
Well, I'm talking about the other lines of text because it's important of why I say it only has one line of text. Because the shred stuff doesn't matter. We don't need shred. Shred doesn't matter right now. It after the nerfs.
You're saying shred is not a differentiator between build strength.
Yeah,
if you can fit it in, you take it.
It's not good enough to merit a helmet. if that makes sense.
I hear you.
Helmet
Okay.
slot is very strong. Now, the thing is, it has a lot of other good stats on it. It has the +2 to buff skills, which is funny because it works with like Flame Ward and Enchant Weapon, right? And it has the 52% ignite duration. Before this patch, it was very hard to get that much ignite duration on a single item, so that's very strong. The ward decay threshold is becoming a lot more usable than I thought. It works the way I thought it did, where it sets your 0 up higher for
Mm-hmm.
ward, which is insane, right? It's insane. I just noticed, like, I noticed that when I was playing around with it the other day. Like,
It's
that is
nice.
insane.
It
So, like, the
really is
helmet
nice.
is amazing, just not for its intended purpose, which I don't know if that counts as a fail to you, but it
So when
counts
I
as a
think
fail
about
to
ignite
me.
builds, I think about the Calamity
Yeah.
helmet that has like fire
Hmm.
spell cast speed
Yeah.
and chance to ignite on hit with fire
Yeah.
skills. Is this something that you're using instead of that in an ignite build?
Yeah, 50% duration is insane, Perry. Like, there's not many, like, specifically on a Rune Master, there are not many Rune Master, but like, like, so for instance, the idol, the
Mm-hmm.
4x1 idol gives you 25%. Like, this is double that on a helmet, right? Like, that's insanely strong. 52% increased ignite duration. That if you had no ignite duration at all, which most builds don't because it's a very rare stat,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's 52% more damage. That is significantly better than just having shred.
I hear you. I hear what you're saying there. Yeah, if you have
Yeah.
no other source of ignite duration, having your first source of it is quite strong. There you
Yeah,
go.
it is insanely strong when you use it
So
for that.
so where are we putting this thing as like an ignite helmet that competes with
B,
Calamity?
B.
I would put this thing in C tier, but I guess I haven't played
Uh,
many ignite builds.
B because of how strong it is for ignite, in my opinion.
Okay.
B.
I'll allow it. This time,
Yeah.
I'll allow it. We have a much weirder item here coming up next. I have an opinion about, so we're gonna do this item and the next item back to back. And as soon as I tell you what it is, you're gonna know exactly what I'm talking about. I love that this next item is in the game. I'm a big fan of it. I think it's cute. I think it's adorable. I really like how it messes with the other systems that already exist. I am not a big fan of it. In terms of actually using a Marrow-fage,
Oh,
I mean, sure,
uh,
if you get some awesome stats on it,
Marrow-fage.
I guess.
Yeah. I mean, Marrow-fage is the ultimate gambling experience.
It's
Like,
cool. It's a really cool item, and I'm really happy it's in the game.
yeah, like I think it's cool. I think it's a cool item.
But
I think the
are we
problem with
using it?
Marrow-fage. Okay.
It's an awesome proof of concept. Absolutely agree, Twitch chat.
Once there are ways of having overleech where that less damage taken is more important, and you take that on top of like a Titan Heart or whatever. So, like, for instance, technically right now, if you have a tier 1 health loss per second gain ward on a build, you will always be leeching, if I'm not mistaken.
I was going to say the
It's kind
same
of like
thing. That is
leech,
also my understanding.
which is really strong. If harvest was not a complete joke, then this would be amazing for harvest. Um, because you're always leeching because you have dredge, like death seal on, right? And you're
Can
always
we
missing life.
revisit that real quick? I wanna
Yeah.
I wanna
Go ahead.
say that again because I think it really is important. Marrow-fage
Yeah.
has some text on it that says like
Yeah.
while you're a leech and you're taking less damage. And there's been this piece of technology in the game for a very long time that is almost never relevant, and it is if you are losing health to something, then
Yeah.
you always count as leeching. So for Lich, you can have like one of those passives in the Lich Master that says like, you know, you lose 1% of your maximum health or 1% of your current health per second.
Yeah.
And like Lich has that, but like where does everyone else get that? So it's kind of a niche technology. But now that we have the tier 1
Research
mod on your
ethics,
the tier 1 thing on your gloves, it says like you lose life per second, you gain wards, like a little mini exsanguinous. You could put a tier 1 of that on any build and you will always be leeching because you never count as full health. So you always take less damage. And I think I don't know if that's a bug. I mean, is it a bug? It's good.
I mean, I think that's just how the game works. It's how Path of Exile works. It's you just kind of assume it works the same in this game.
Yeah,
You
but
know,
it's
like
good. It's less damage
with the way
taken. It's
leech
cool.
work. Yeah, I think it's fine. I think if you go out of your way to do that, I think that's
Mm-hmm.
fine. It's a tax on your sustain, so I think it's fine. Um, but yeah, if you don't know how Marrow-fage works, chat, essentially when you shatter a two-handed sword while you have Marrow-fage equipped, it absorbs the shards you would gain instead of giving you the shards. And then you gain legendary affixes equal to the shards that you got. onto the sword. Now, this sword has the potential to be absolutely insane with 4 tier 7s, or it could be absolutely terrible like it is most of the time, where it just gives you like 4 tier 1 affixes. Right?
Leech doesn't stop when you're max health. Leech does stop when you're max health.
Leech does stop when you're at max health. That is very important to know on this. That is very important to know on this. That is incorrect because, like for instance, if you're playing an earthquake build and you leech like a gabillion from your gabillion damage and it hits your top, you're done. It's over. The leech is gone. It's gone into the aether. That's why dot leech currently is so strong, is because it keeps ticking and keeps leeching. You know, it keeps ticking.
So we had the acid blast podcast. Now we have the leech podcast. We've got some tangents brewing here.
Yeah.
So are we trying to use Marrow-fage in a build, or are we just calling it a proof of concept? And
Marrow-fage is the kind of item where it's kind of like the item that that person on that YouTube comment complained about earlier, where like if you have it, you're gonna use it, and like the Mr. Streamer's gonna look cool with it. But if you're gonna try to get it, it's gonna take 5 years.
Really hard to make a YouTube build guide about it.
Yeah, essentially, Marrow-fage is a toolbox. One day it will be used. Someone will hit one with amazing stats. But I think it is a way for the devs to currently start deleting two-handed exalted swords out of the economy that they can give us a really good one in the next patch.
Man, back in Path of Exile, I used to love talking about that, like ways to get items to leave the economy. And like, I know,
a joke, by the way. That's not why they made it like this.
I know, but like, it's a really cool observation, isn't it? Like, it kind of helps you clean your stash, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like, you take all these garbage two-handed swords, you're like, oh, I might as well toss it over here.
I think Marrow-fage is a wonderful addition to the game.
Yes.
I think the problem with it, like I said, is it's RNG, and you can't really rely upon that RNG. So I think C tier is perfect for it. Not because it can't be good. That's the problem with an item like this, is because the difference between a good Marrow-fage and a bad Marrow-fage is such a drastic difference that, like if you get a good Marrow-fage, you're gonna fucking use it, right?
And you're gonna use it in like the next 5 builds you play. Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna use it. It's just like you got to get to that point first.
All right, let's move on to the next item, because I think it kind of falls in the same way. If you've been playing this game, you know what this thing is. This is the Cuckoo. And the Cuckoo is an item that has virtually no text on it. None of it matters, because you wear it for like 2 or 3 minutes, you kill some monsters, and then it says the Cuckoo flew away, and it transforms into a random exalted item
with higher.
But it also has the avian Cuckoo implicit modifier. So it will never have a crit modifier, or it'll never have a crit implicit. It'll never have a ward per second implicit. It will only ever have the haste stuff implicit. So it's cool. It's a proof of concept. It's basically the same as Marrow-fage to me.
With this thing, essentially, catalysts already are very difficult to place in the current endgame of Last Epoch with just how they are. So trying to actually figure out a use for this is just ridiculous. It's hard, because like
it can make you faster.
What build
got effective haste
are you playing that wants to use a catalyst but isn't going crit? Because remember, most of the time people are using catalyst for base crit, because that's currently how Last Epoch works. So you're not using it for that, right? I think one day there's going to be a build where someone's going to be crazy enough to get a Cuckoo that gets max rolled, right? Where you get 34% increased effective haste. You're going to get the decent modifiers. You get the boots with increased effective haste. And they're going to go so unbelievably fast on their stupid shaman build that it's going to get it nerfed somehow. Now, we will wait for that day. Now, I think, I'll be honest, the actual item itself would have been amazing if it didn't have the I remove myself text. That's the funny part, is like, I think the item could have been very interesting. You got the ward decay threshold, which is a new stat, and it rolls really high. The crit avoidance, which is always useful.
It's like you can't get crit avoidance on an offhand unless you use this thing.
Yeah.
It's cool.
And then it flies
away, and then it's no longer cool.
Yeah, and then it turns into a catalyst. I think the
Yes.
problem is it's trying to make us excited for catalysts. And I know you, Perry. I know you're biased against catalysts, and so am I. Catalysts right now are one of the most uninteresting base types in the entire game currently, so it's hard for me to be happy about it. So I would put it in D tier. I think it's D tier.
You think it's
I
D
think it's a
tier?
complete meme. I think
I
it's a
love it.
complete meme.
Love it. All right.
Complete utter meme tier. I think the thing is, I think they were thinking of that when they were making it, or like this is a joke. I think that's what they were thinking of when they made it.
Let's grab our next unique item here. I'm gonna keep going in order of what I've
Yeah, you're good.
got on my screen. The next one is it's fundamentally a pretty strong item. It's a fundamental criterion. If you've been playing for a while, you've seen this featured in a good handful of builds. It is a mage only body armor that has. Oh, excuse me.
People
am I
are gonna
allergic?
like my take on this thing.
I'm like allergic to good items. All right, so this thing has plus
no,
1 to
that's
3.
not the problem.
It's got plus 1 to
Continue.
3 of runic invocation. It has more damage while using a wand if the first invocation is this, more damage if using a staff if this thing is this, more damage if a scepter, and then it also allows you to stack attributes. So you can stack some strength, some dexterity, and stack attunement, and you get more damage per each one that you're stacking for various runes in the second place of your runic invocation. It feels like it might be a mandatory item if you're trying to get your
Runic invocation to actually deal damage.
yeah, to deal like as much damage as possible. It's hard to know exactly how good it is because there's so many bugs in the game right now with runic invocation.
Yeah.
Do you like so before we talk about power level, do you like a play style having a unique item that's so strong for it that you basically have to use it?
I think that this is the exact opposite of the conversation we were having earlier, where we were talking about how, like, oh, I like items that do interesting things that aren't what it usually does. Like, for instance, Static Shell. I think
Wait, did you cut out?
opposite spectrum. Wait, what?
Oh, you're good. Keep going.
Oh, okay. It's the exact opposite side of the spectrum where, like, it is so focused on one specific thing that I think it's unhealthy for the game, because my problem is, so if you're gonna play a runic invocation build, you're gonna play with this. I'm sorry. Like, you're gonna play with it. You're gonna find a way to play with it. Now, of course, those runic invocation builds will be interesting because you stack deck, strength, and all that, but essentially, it is your chess piece when you're playing a runic invocation build. If you're playing a runic invocation build and you want to deal damage, this is what you're using, right? I'm sorry, that's
So
just
we've complained in the past about like having more multipliers on a skill tree, and like I wish they were on items instead. So they took the more multiplier off the skill tree, they put it on an item. Would you like to see this on the skill tree instead?
Well, yeah, because the problem is, like, the problem here with this is runic invocation is lower powered, right? It came with less damage and all that because fundamental criterion exists. So the balance with runic invocation is runic invocation plus fundamental criterion, right? So like they're interchangeable, they're there, right? That's what the devs are bouncing it around, the damage on runic invocation, right? The fact that runic invocations feel so meh is because of the existence of fundamental criterion. Like, for instance, like fundamental criterion is like the half of the passive tree that runic invocation is quote unquote missing, right? Like, try playing a runic invocation build without fundamental criterion and isn't like the, what is it called, the, you know, the other stuff like the hydron or whatever, right? It's
Which
not gonna
uses
be
this,
fun.
obviously.
Yeah, it like, and it's like, it's interesting enough to merit its existence. It's just like, I would rather less power be in the item and more power be just with runic invocation, because like runic invocation should
it's
just
so
work
funny
out
because
the
that's
box,
the
right?
opposite of what we normally complain about.
Yeah, I think that this is so far down that road of specificity that I think that it's just damaging for the game. I think it's just outright damaging for the game, because it's like, you have this really cool skill with like 40 different ways of using it, but then you end up only using 5 without fundamental criterion, and then fundamental criterion maybe makes 7 viable, right?
I would
And it's
like to see like maybe like the more while using a weapon move to the skill tree, or maybe the attribute stacking move to the skill tree. Like not both of those.
Yeah, I think what you said that I think the stat stacking part is interesting because it makes you stack stats that you're not supposed to stack.
And
But
that
then
that is really cool.
for some reason, then you can't get attunement on a chest on a mage for some reason, and that's confusing. But whatever, go with the wind, whatever, right? But like, I think the upper half could literally be made into an affix on the skill, like it's just in the skill, like it's just a node in the skill, because you get plenty of skill points with the skill, right? And the bottom half stays, and then maybe the LP level goes down or something, or it's already 54, so it's like very easy to get LP on it. But that's like the thing. I think that it's shoehorning you too much into it.
I hear you. So where are we placing this item? Are we placing this
Oh,
item based on like its design or how strong it is?
How strong it is, I would put it in S.
I
It's
think
just
I think it
really
belongs in
strong.
S tier.
Like I think if you're playing, like I think if an item says if you're playing the skill, you're using it, it goes in S. I'm sorry, it's just how it is. Sadly, it's
So
like if you're
maybe
playing, yeah, it's like
maybe the next item that we talk about will have a shorter conversation to it because I think
especially with like hydrohedron too. Like this is insane with hydrohedron, right?
let's pull up this little item right here. We're gonna pull up the box
boy.
of Hydra.
Oh,
And
speaking
this
of
item
that,
is very similar. It's got plus levels to runic invocation, fire penetration with the fire invocations. You're only using this thing if you are a mage because it's a mage only item, and you're probably only using it with runic invocations that are proccing the Hydra.
hydrohedron.
Oh, is there a build out there that uses a box of Hydra without being the Hydra build?
Well, it has 36 LP, so like the pen with fire invocations is useful. So like yes, probably. If you get like a 2 to 3 LP one with the stats you want, yeah, you get plus levels or runic invocation. Yeah, that's like a completely fine thing. Like it's just like the attunement gloves, like with the 20% fire pen. That's enough to make it work, right? Especially at the relic slot, and the relic slot's like kind of meh for mage anyway. So it's like, yeah, I could see that.
I'm
But
gonna
then
throw
of
this in a
course,
random
yeah.
fire build with a meteor belt. It's a cute observation. I
The
like
only
it.
problem I have with it is like the line chains to invoke Hydrohedron on kill with fire skills. If you're playing a Hydrohedron build, it actually ends up being just a worse item because randomly your Hydrohedron is going to kill something and it's going to resummon itself. Well, I guess it doesn't anymore. I guess it's like a duration. Yeah, never mind. I'm stupid. Ignore me on that because you can have more than one Hydrohedron out. I forgot about that. Like it doesn't like redo itself. I forgot about that. I think that's a different one. But yeah, like I think it's like an okay item. I think it's cool. It's just like I
It's
think
also insane.
I think my hatred towards Hydrohedron right now is being kind of put on this item unfairly. So I'm gonna let you rank it.
You think you? I think there's too many things that Hydrohedron, or sorry, that the Hydrohedron build gets for free, like
Yeah,
the
I
never
agree.
late node and the mastery, the fundamental
Yeah.
criterion, and this thing both existing at the same time. All the
Yeah.
more multipliers kind of fall in place. It kind of reminds me of how the more multipliers and how all the rogue passives fall in line for Hail of Arrows as a marksman. Like it feels like Hail of Arrows is the reason for 70 or 80% of the decisions in the marksman skill tree.
Mhm.
And the Hydra build, it's so strong, and it gets all these little pieces of synergy everywhere. Like this
Yeah.
thing has, it's got 81%
Like,
area for shotgunning.
I'm not the one to ever say like, oh, favoritism, but someone
Oh,
really liked
I'm
Hydrohedron,
pretty
man.
sure Judd was talking about
Yeah.
Hydrohedron being his
Someone
favorite
really
runic
liked
invocation.
Hydrohedron. Yeah.
I think it
Someone
belongs in
really
S
liked
tier.
Hydrohedron. Yeah, I
I
agree
think it's a
too.
very
Yeah.
strong item. I think it's
Oh, yeah.
not entirely pigeonholed into the Hydrohedron build, but it's the best
Let's be
use case
real.
for it.
Like, what are you
It's
doing?
insane.
Yeah.
All right, let's go for a maybe a meme item, a very busted item. We'll see. So this ring here is called
Oh my God.
putrescence. Let me pull this thing out. Cycle of
Uh,
putrescence.
there's
I've
so much
seen
going on that I don't even know if I could properly place this.
there's a lot of bugs. 17 bugs wearing a trench coat.
It's not
So
even just bugs. It's just unintended interactions. It's like they just forgot that, like, oh yeah,
so
sacrifice can still cast.
this ring is
Mana.
cool. It's got minion spell damage on it, up to 81%. Pretty cool. It's got poison damage for your minions' damage over time spells, which is weird because most of the time poison is like not a spell, it's an ailment. But this adds flat damage to a damage over time spell, which Dread, I know you put in a build as well. It's got plus level to dot minion skills, which is niche, but interesting.
Which is bugged. It's not
Which is
working
bugged.
properly.
Just kidding. Not interesting at all.
Because like the problem is like, for instance, if you like give a minion a dot tag by doing something, it doesn't work. It doesn't seem, except for zombies. Except for zombies, they made sure that one worked.
All right, and then
ones.
The most interesting part about this ring, of course, is the very first line of text that I skipped that says your volatile zombies have a chance to resurrect equal to 100% divided by the number of zombies. So is the bug primarily with the belt? There's a lot of moving pieces.
We can talk about that for like a brief moment here after we talk about it. Okay, TLDR, when the devs made this item, they forgot to cap some of the nodes inside the zombie tree. So like, for instance, in the volatile zombie tree, there is specifically a node that can cast sacrifice on zombie death. Now, this node, unlike all the other proc nodes recently in the game, it does not have the line of saying, cast this while you're at positive mana. If you're not at positive mana, you can't cast. It does not have that line. So you can go infinite into negative mana, constantly casting zombies, constantly summoning zombies and all that with the belt and everything combined. And you can get to almost ridiculous amounts of ward because of the negative ward traversal thing. Like, and the thing is, even if they nerf that part, there's still other things that you can do with this that are broken too, because they forgot that this like this is the kind of ring that you add in the game when you completely forget what everything else does.
So we're going to try to ignore the bugs and the unintended interactions and the whole Lich build that has over 2,000 waves in the arena and gets 20 million ward. We're going to try to ignore that.
Oh, yeah. And the sad part is, like, the thing it's supposed to be good for, like the puke zombies, it's not even good enough to make puke zombies good, because puke zombies are terrible. So it's like the whole point of the item is to make puke zombies viable, right? Puke zombies aren't good, even with the ring, even with double ring. Like, I even tested it. Even with double ring, puke zombies don't deal enough damage to merit their existence.
Is it a damage issue? Is it like an AoE issue? Is it a playstyle issue?
Damage.
Just damage?
Because the whole point of zombie, the reason why zombies are so good is because you keep summoning them, and they kill themselves and cause damage. So like, you can essentially, it's one of the only minion skills that would kind of like
on your cast speed.
Scale with your cast speed,
right?
Which makes it really good, right? So like, but the problem is when you do the puke, it doesn't do that, and then it turns into a normal minion, and then it's a normal minion with like a melee area range with the puke, and then like it has a lot of other problems. But essentially, like, you usually will not use this for puke zombies currently, not in the current state. Now, you can use this with regular zombies and just like have a chance to summon zombies, and that is very strong. Even if you're playing just a generic summon zombies build, having 2 of these rings is 30% more damage already. Just existing.
I like it.
Not including the percent damage and all that. Like, the stats on the ring is good. It's on a good base type. Overall, the ring is insane, even without the bugs. And like, I think it's like, well, like S tier, easily. It's just,
S tier ring, even without the bugs.
Yeah, even without them, because it's just that strong. It's just that strong of an item.
It's not a turquoise ring though. If you're playing a minion damage build, would you normally want turquoise?
No, you want the ward retention, because you're stacking ward with this kind of build.
I feel like there's a handful of S tier items that I want to put in S tier.
80% increased damage. It doesn't need the turquoise base.
But it's missing crit multi.
You don't need crit multi.
I want to put this in A tier. If I put this in A tier, is it better than Static Shell?
Easily, yeah.
You think easily?
It does. Okay, it makes so many different things good. It makes so many different builds viable. It makes so many things really strong. Like,
is there a reason that you would ever use this ring with the belt to summon volatile zombies without being a necromancer? Or sorry, without being an acolyte?
Yeah, because you have the potion dispensary build, remember?
But like, what good do you have like having like a bunch of zombies that like die and resurrect?
I mean, once you start getting into the hundreds of zombies, it starts getting a little ridiculous, Perry, to be fair.
Wait, can you get 100 zombies off this?
Well, what you do is you run the belt, with the modifier to summon 6 zombies. You run the node on Ballista that gives you potions, when it dies or whatever.
Okay.
And then you just sit there and you spam your potion in ballistas and you keep summoning zombies. And these rings are essentially 30% more zombies. Well, you get 6 per potion, and they explode and resummon themselves, and they still hit. Remember, because they explode when more are summoned.
Sure.
Right? Like it can do stupid stuff. It can do stupid stuff. I don't know how good
I want to see either a video from you with hundreds of zombies or a video from anybody out there who's listening with hundreds of zombies.
I need a +6 zombies belt. I'm waiting for it.
If anybody has a +6 zombie belt, go make hundreds of zombies. I want to see the clip.
Yeah, we're gonna do it.
Let's move on to the next item here. Next one is Dragar's Claw. This was a standout for me very early on because there's so much good text on it. Let's see, Dragar. Here we go. So Dragar's Claw is it's the second, technically, unique rune dagger in the game. The first unique rune dagger was Ghostmaker, which had a bunch of damage over time on it.
Which doesn't really synergize with
being a rune dagger, right? So like the big thing about rune dagger is that crit base. So this thing has chance to cast Lightning Blast on crit with Frost Claw, which is kind of pigeonholed. Lightning Blast cast this way, do a bunch of stuff per cold res. That's kind of pigeonholed. But it also has ward gain on crit with Frost Claw. It's kind of generic. And the most generic, it's kind of boring, but it's also very good. This is plus to all resistances and spell critical strike multiplier. It is a low level requirement, and it is a low LP level. You could get this with 1 or 2 LP without too much effort. I like it. I like that it's in the game. It's a strong item.
I think the reason why I like this item is it has lines of text that mention a skill, but it's also very strong without said lines of text. Like I could very easily see using this on a multitude of builds that aren't just Frostclaw, just because of the fact that it has spell crit multi on it, and like they're all res and all that, and then you get an LP one with more stats too, and it's on a really good base. Like I think it's a very well designed unique where like it doesn't feel overpowered, but it feels very strong when you're using it. Like for instance, I recently made a build with it, right? That wasn't even using it for its intended purpose. With the the static build, getting as many crits as possible. Like that wasn't even actually playing Frostclaw, right?
Why does this item have all resistance on it?
I don't know. I think
so
it's
good.
Cool. I like it, but
it's so strong.
Yeah, like it's like one entire blessing on your weapon.
Yeah,
it's insane.
It's like a well-rolled blessing too. It only goes to 20 all res.
The only problem with Dragar is like it's like as Enchirion is saying in chat is it's too generic. Like but the thing is like you can get an LP one with crit and crit multi, and that would be like one of the best rune daggers in the entire game. So it's like, yeah.
Listen, I've used a very good rune dagger in the past, and I was happy to have like armor shred on hit as a suffix, and I was happy to have chill on it, and I also wanted like melee attack speed and like a sealed modifier and a tier 7 something. Like there's reasons to use a normal dagger instead.
Yeah.
But this thing's really good.
Yeah. I think they could probably lessen the crit multi you get from it, and it would still be fine.
37 to 47 spell crit multi is a ton of crit multi. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a S tier just by merit of existing, even if you're not playing a Frostclaw build.
We'll put it right there. We're gonna move on to the next item because we still have about 10 or so left. We're gonna see if we can pick up the pace. We're just about at an hour or so for the podcast right now. Let's move on to how about this one? I haven't messed with it too much, but I've seen some people talk about trying to use it as like a stat stick. Phrase Retreat. Let me pull this up on my screen.
Oh,
Phrase Retreat has crit. It's got a crit implicit, so like normal up to 6. It is a +1 to 4 levels to Frostwall. Got Frostwall duration, which is kind of like a more multiplier if you're using Frostwall for damage. When you directly cast Frostwall, you do a jump backward and you cast the cold invocation. And then it's got % increased cold damage up to 108, which is a lot. And it also, most importantly for me, has cold damage over time to frozen enemies.
Okay. All right.
I don't think you need to say too much about this. I think it's like a solid like B or A.
The only problem is the when you directly cast Frost Wall part, it's bugged, and like you know how like Shield Rush has the latency problems. it's the same thing.
Gross. Totally
Yeah,
gross.
yeah, and I think, like you said, it is a really good stat stick and all that. Having Frostwall duration is really strong because you can use that with Runic Invocation
Hmm.
and all that with the node. And like, I think it's a cool item. I don't know how these items that cast invocations outside of Runic Invocation work because, like, do they get the more damage per rune? Do they, like, I don't know what they get. Like, there hasn't been any, like, talk about that.
A good question, I
So,
suppose. Okay.
yeah, like, that specifically, the thing I'd be interested in is specifically the Revix Blizzard part and how it works with Runic Invocations tree. But I think it's a solid item if you're playing a cold dot build that is like, I think the problem this thing runs into, like every other catalyst to ever exist, is the fact that it's a catalyst. So I think that's the problem, is it's just a catalyst.
I'm gonna
And
leave it.
I've
I'm
been
gonna leave it
trying
at
to
B
make,
tier. I was thinking
yeah,
about
I've
using
been,
this on a
yeah,
Frostbite Frostclaw build. Like if you get some
yeah,
LP on it, it's gonna be good.
yeah. I've been trying to make a Frostwall build do damage, and it's not been going well. So that kind of demerits this a little bit,
I
but
hear
we'll
you.
see.
Tainted by your own experience there. But I'm gonna put it
I
at B tier. I
imagine.
think it's a fine item. I like that it's in the game.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it's fine once it's fixed and once we get some, specification on how Runic Invocations work outside of Runic Invocations tree. I think it'll be interesting.
I gotcha. All right,
Yeah.
so let's move on to another unique item here. This one is called the Shattered Cycle. And I've thought a lot about
Ah,
this.
okay,
I
this
haven't
one.
used it at all. It is a
It's okay, no one has.
it's a scepter. It's not a staff. It's a scepter, even though it kind of looks like a staff. It's a good base type. It's the obsidian. So it's got like good melee damage, good spell damage on it. It's got plus 1 or 2 levels to runic invocation. After you directly cast a 1 rune invocation, you gain a buff. When you directly cast a 2 rune invocation after using the 1 rune invocation, you gain 48 spell damage. And when you directly cast a 3 after casting a 2, you gain 96 spell damage. And it's got cast speed and it's got mana regeneration. So in my mind, this thing is only usable as a stat stick because it
Hmm.
has cast speed and mana
It is
regeneration.
just a stat stick. It is.
What were they
But like,
thinking?
uh, so the problem is, chat, if you don't know,
Well, tell me
it
what the
is
problem is.
bugged. It is currently bugged.
Oh,
If you have one of the buffs currently on your bar and you go to a new zone, it will not allow you to get a new instance of the buff until you log out and log back in. It is bugged.
sweet.
So even if I wanted to tell you how good or bad this thing is, I couldn't if I wanted to.
Should
Now,
this thing? Okay, I guess we don't know if it's good or bad. Should this thing work with the top right nodes, the little jump that runic invocation
yeah,
allows you to do?
I don't know. I
I
don't
have
know
no idea.
what I don't know what they were thinking when they made this, but like in theory, the one specific one that works really well with this is this works really well with the the ball lightning one.
Yeah,
The ball
L L
lightning
L
one.
L L L.
Yeah.
Totally
I think
love
it
it.
works really well with that. It's only very good with invocations that have 3 of the same rune,
Hmm.
right? If that makes sense. Because like you don't want to be like having to mentally keep track of everything
Hmm.
constantly. So like I think it's cool. I think it'll be useful when like it's bug fixed one day. I think what you said is correct though. It is kind of just a stat stick. I have a 1 LP one hoping I get cast speed on it so I can use
Double
it on
cast
other
speed,
builds.
insane.
Yeah, it and the fact it has mana regen on it is the most confusing thing because now like we have so much unbelievable amounts of mana regen than before. It's crazy because like back in the day it was like the devs were like, oh, we want mana to be a hard thing, and then they print this thing. It's just like, what? Yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be
Where are we
cool.
placing it? Like C tier, Marrow-fage tier,
Oh, I think as a stat stick it's A tier. As a stat stick
A
it's A
tier
tier.
stat stick.
It's an A tier stat stick. It like cast speed to mana regen and getting like maybe another cast speed roll or like spell crit or whatever, like that make like it's amazing. It's
A lot of
amazing.
cast
Even
speed.
without the runic invocation part. And maybe the runic invocation part is interesting one day when it's fixed.
All right, I'm gonna put it on B. I'm gonna put it top of B tier.
Fair.
I'm
Fine.
gonna knock
That's
that
fine.
down a peg, just like I knocked down cyclic putrescence a peg.
I'm gonna eat a piece of pizza real quick. I've been waiting for
Oh my
this while you
goodness. All
talk
right,
about
so
the next
as you
item.
eat your pizza, we're gonna go on to the next item here. This is called Transcribers. Let's see if I can find this real quick. Where is it? Where are we? There we go. Transcriber's Graver. It's a one-handed sword. It's bugged right now, and we'll talk for a second about it. Because all sources of generic elemental penetration are giving you 7 times the value that they're supposed to, as per my understanding. So currently, the ele penetration on Transcriber's Graver makes it like insane, but it's not that insane. So what it is, it's a one-handed sword. It also has spell damage on it. So it has flat adaptive spell damage
for a sword.
Yeah, so you can like LP another tier 7 spell damage node onto this, which is a very cool thing to do. It has some synergies with Volcanic Orb, increases to fire aura area apply to your Glyph of Dominion. You make your Glyph of Dominion super big and have that as a main damaging skill. Chance to cast fire aura each second while standing on your glyph.
It's a meh. It's whatever.
And then spell damage with Flame Rush if you're playing a DPS Flame Rush build per stack of fire aura.
Don't do that. I tried. It's terrible.
I wanted to try that when we had the no cooldown Flame Rush in the game, but now that's not in the game. It's not.
I don't even think that'd be good even then.
Too bad.
Flame Rush like doesn't have the support.
So Transcriber's Graver has elemental penetration. And it has adaptive damage on it. And you can LP more stuff onto it.
Yeah.
I love it. A tier.
I think as a stat stick, oh God, we're talking about this again. It's an amazing stat stick, and it's really, really good when you're playing Glyph of Dominion because you get such gigantic amounts of AoE. Huge AoE.
Yeah.
So like, and it like, the thing is, it's such a big stat stick that you don't mind not wearing a wand. It's that big of a stat stick.
The downside is it's not a katana, so it doesn't have that like crit multi implicit modifier. But you know, you get this thing with like 1 or 2 LP on it.
It with dot. You're usually using it with dot Glyph of Dominion, whether it be ignite or spell dot. You don't really need to use it for crit. If that makes sense, at least in my opinion.
I mean, if it has the spell damage on it, so you want to be like a spell dot build.
Yeah,
Maelstrom baby.
That exists. Yeah. I mean, you can do all this as shaman. You can. I mean, I'm sure it'd be really strong right now with the multiplied 7 times elemental pen.
I like the idea of just having this unique item in the game. Is it stronger than the Shattered Cycle?
I think it has a different use case than the Shattered Cycle.
I think it's probably about the same as Shattered Cycle.
There are certain classes like Sentinel that gets like that gets to use a sword in its offhand, and this is an amazing stat stick for a build like that.
I like it.
If there was ever a spell dot Sentinel build, this would be amazing for that.
You only dot? Like you like Katana that much?
Well, I mean, the thing is like you're putting it in your offhand, so you're not running a catalyst. You're like essentially it has. It has better synergy with dot than it does with crit.
So you don't want to play like a crit catalyst with a Transcriber's Graver in your main hand?
I mean, if you hit the spell damage flat on it, sure, why not, right?
But then like you're not using a wand.
There's like a lot of different ways.
Okay, yeah, a lot of moving pieces.
I think it's definitely A tier.
You think it's A tier?
A tier, yeah.
If this thing is A tier, is it okay? Shattered Chains or Shattered?
With its synergy with Glyph of Dominion specifically, making it screen wide AOE, I think that is enough to get it to A tier. Also, it doesn't have a low LP level. Yeah, it has a 48 LP level. Yeah, that's insane. Yeah, it's A tier. Especially even with the bug fix, it's still amazing. It's not supposed to have that much more damage.
Where is the item that I'm looking for here?
Which one are you looking for?
I'm looking for Crest of Unity.
Oh, Crest of Unity's Crest of Unity, I have it pulled up.
I almost know what it does off the top of my head, but it's not showing up.
Yeah. It's
funny. Oh, there it is. Now I got it. Oh, I had helmet collapsed. That's why I wasn't showing up.
People aren't going to like what I have to say about this.
You don't like this? Okay, so Crest of Unity.
No, I like what it is.
God bless.
They're just not going to like what I say about it.
Oops. Crest of Unity is a new unique item. It is a plus levels to Elemental Nova, plus between 3 and 6 levels to Elemental Nova. It is... Man, I just messed up my earpiece. Man, I'm messing up my earpiece in the middle of talking. How frustrating. All right, so it is a... It says that it's relatively easy to get with 1 LP. It's like uncommon for 1 LP. The LP level is 60.
Oh no, here comes the bias.
It seems so hard to get this thing with LP on it. It seems really difficult. But here's the item says. It gives you plus levels to Alienova, and then you can LP more plus levels. So you can get potentially plus 10 levels to Alienova, which is neat. It's got area. It says Alienova is always tri-elemental. I think that's kind of interesting. Elemental penetration with Alienova per 10 uncapped total Ellie res. So it kind of supports
the fact it's tri-Ellie.
So it kind of supports, its own tri-Ellie stuff going on. Because normally the problem with tri-Ellie is like you don't have shred for all of them, but having hybrid penetration is neat. And then perhaps the most boring, but to me the most interesting, it has between 9 and 18% less damage taken from ignited, shock, or chilled enemies.
If you get one with like good LP, like maybe one LP with a good stat, like that's good enough on its own.
It's good enough on like any build. I mean, it's a mage item, but you play this on Frostbite, Frostclaw. Why wouldn't you?
Damage. That's about as much as average less damage taken.
That's a big game. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's big, especially on a ward build.
So what do you have to say? I like it. I like it for the less damage taken.
I think it is an amazing item. I think it's a really cool item. I like that it exists. I'm sad that it's just going to be used for the DR in the future, but I think it's a cool item.
Oh, I think it's great.
Yeah.
S tier? A tier.
Yeah.
Let's go A tier.
I think A tier is fine. I think A tier is fine because it has such a high LP level. So like 60, that's pretty high. Like you can't the problem is with these items and why we put like, for instance, what is it called? Apex of Thought so low is because with items with really high LP level on a helmet or a chest, they have to be substantially better than the rest because it allows a lot of competition, right? Like class affixes are part of the game. They exist. Exalted class affixes make a lot of builds work.
And where's my tier 7 intelligence rules too?
Yeah, like you want LP on this thing, like pronto. But it's so good without LP too. That's the funny part, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think A tier is easily with this one.
We'll stick with A tier. I'm gonna see if I can pick up the pace. We're gonna move on to another item here. Yeah, like I like it, but I want someone to actually continue listening because I think it's a long podcast. We're gonna go on to this one here. You told me that if I ever play this build, it's gonna be my favorite minion build I've ever played. So this is Howl of the West Wind. There's a bug with this. We're not gonna talk about the bug. This is a wolf helmet, which means you cannot use it with the squirrel build. So you're only playing wolves. It's got minion movement speed. Your wolves cannot be stunned. Chance for your wolves to retaliate with lightning, I guess. Chance to shock on melee hit for yourself. And then it says chance on hit with lightning skills to grant your wolves additional melee lightning damage equal to your melee lightning damage. I think that's awesome.
I think it's awesome. I've played this build. I think it is a cool thing to do. Like for instance, we have necrotic wolves, we have lightning wolves now, we have bleed wolves, of course, and we have the squirrels. So like just having another way of playing wolves is really cool. I like that. The fact that you can get your weapons matter on a minion build like much more than normal, if that makes sense. Like for instance, like when I'm looking at my weapons, I'm like, all right, I need exalted melee lightning and all that, right? And I'm looking for all that. I like that part. It makes gearing a lot more fun. Like overall, I think it's amazing. I think it's an excuse to play wolves over squirrels, which is an amazing thing right now considering how oppressive squirrels are currently.
Is there a reason to use this on a build that isn't a wolf build? Like so you have minion movement speed.
I think if you get an LP one, its LP level's really low. You can get like a 3 LP one pretty quickly.
37 minion movement speed is nothing to scoff at.
And you can also use the retaliate thing. You can play like poison or bleed wolves and use the retaliate to increase your clear speed too, by the way. That is an option. You don't have to actually use it for the melee lightning part. I think it's a good add to the game. It's a little too niche, but at the same time, I think it's fine. I think it's less of the problem that it's too niche, but the more of the problem that like wolves is Ichi ever going to remember that other companions exist?
Oh, I mean, it is weird that we have like the squirrel helmet and like wolves are insane because of the squirrel helmet. Yeah. Why wasn't this like a scorpion or a saber-tooth? Yeah, totally.
Yeah. We're missing on all those. I think it's cool. Like I said, any excuse to give the finger to the squirrels, I'm fine with. So
where are we putting this item? Is this like
I think A tier. Wolves
A tier?
are really strong. A A. Damage. It's a lot of damage.
A stands for damage. How about under static shell?
Yeah, it does a lot of damage. Let's put it like that. Like I did not get to explore the extent of said damage, but it's a lot.
Let's move on to this item. This next one is called Blood of the Exile.
Oh boy. You just put it at the top. We don't even have to talk about it.
S tier, baby. So Blood of the Exile has 30% movement speed, and that's all you got to know. You can get double movement speed, and it's nuts. It has bleed duration, which is a generically good stat for bleed builds. More bleed. It says physical ailment damage, but it means bleed. So more bleed damage to moving enemies, 40%. And then it has 8 to 12 strength, 8 to 12 dexterity, 8 to 12 intelligence.
It is a stat stick on a stick. It's literally the biggest stat stick to ever be a stat stick ever.
It's so good. Like, listen, I like bleed. I'll use these in a bleed build.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, so good.
I'll use it in a bleed build. Yeah.
I'd use it anywhere.
Like you get if you're playing a ward build that needs armor, right? This is insane because you get so much percent armor, you get so much percent ward retention, so much percent damage. Like it's just the stat stick to end all stat sticks.
You are excited when you get this thing with 1 or even 2 LP. Yeah. That is a big deal.
Yeah. I love this item.
S tier, A tier, what do you think?
S tier.
S tier?
Easily.
It's so good.
Easily. Like even if you're not playing a bleed build, it's amazing. Like I think that's S tier worthy. Like the fact that you're not using the 2 best lines of text on it and it's still amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, stat stacking is starting to become very strong, guys.
Intelligence is great. I can't wait to see what they do with other things.
Yeah.
I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna move on to this unique item here. I know of a bug with this, which is to say it doesn't hit enemies at close distance. I've also heard people talk about perhaps using this on just generic melee builds and ignoring most of the text. So this is Searpin's Fractal Tree. It's a drop from the Exiled Mage. It has a good base type. It's a Trident. A Trident is basically an Odachi. It has good flat damage, good...
It's a spear though. That gets some demerits.
Yeah, so it's not a sword, so it doesn't get sword synergies, but it is a good base type. It's a competitive base type. It has physical penetration, generic. It has melee physical damage, generic and big. So 36 penetration, up to 84 melee physical damage. It also has up to 12 dexterity on it. And then area skills per 3 dexterity. And then the most interesting line of text, or I guess the build that it has built into it, is Javelin no longer pierces, but when it hits an enemy, it splits into 2 piercing spears that are fired at additional enemies around the target. 1 additional spear is created per 12 dexterity. So it's got a thing going on, but it's also just a generically strong item too.
Yep. So the fact that this is generically strong saves it from oblivion.
Absolutely.
Because Javelin, if you're unaware, chat, Javelin crit, just Javelin crit, it is not only bad, it is unbelievably, astoundingly bad. It makes me sad at how bad it actually is.
You'd rather play crit flurry at that point, right?
There are so many other builds you could be playing, and also as well, Javelin has that 30% of flat physical, right, as extra throwing attack damage, which got power crept immensely because of the flat throwing damage on affixes, right? You have plenty of flat throwing, so you don't need to do something like this. You'd rather dual wield at that point, right, to get the base crit. It doesn't have base crit with Javelin. It doesn't have it's so cool, but so bad at the same time. It makes me sad. At least the Javelin part. Everything else is amazing, right? This is a fucking amazing item. It's just you just ignore the whole point of it, which is the bad part, right?
Just play this thing on Rive, dude.
Yeah,
double all those modifiers. It's so good.
Not the percent fist spend, that won't double.
Unfortunately.
But yeah, I think it's a cool item. I think it deserves its place in the game. Once they actually make Javelin not a complete joke, maybe one day we'll use it with Javelin. Who knows?
Are we B tier? C tier?
B tier.
I'll go B tier. I like B tier.
B is fine. It's a usable weapon. It's usable. It's got low LP for how much flat it has.
It has a
48
damage on it.
Like it's a good item. It's just not good for what it does, and I think it gets demerits for that because I don't like it when they add items in the game like this that are essentially gigantic noob traps. Because there's gonna be one guy is like, oh my god, javelin, and then he's gonna like take 6 hours trying to kill unempowered Lagan.
Let's move on. We got 5 items left here. The next one that I'm going to pull up is something that we talked about a little bit. I haven't used it. We've made fun of it for a while, but I know Rune Bolt just got a buff to its base cast speed. So this is called Abacus Rod. It is
Stat stick.
It's a wand. It's got +1 to 5 levels of Rune Bolt. It has a respectable amount of spell damage on it, and then it's got a bunch of Rune Bolt stuff going on. It's like plus levels per numeromancy, cast speed per numeromancy, like 25 cast speed while you're attacking, plus 25 flat damage while you're attacking. It's cool. You use it in
combat. If you can stomach the playstyle, it is a gigantic stat stick.
I think it's cool. So
I think it's cool.
What's the playstyle for this? Like we're just using this to juice up like runic invocations, right?
Well, I mean, you just use it to get flat damage. Like you get, like for instance, with max rolls, right? You get like 80 flat damage, which is almost comparable to a staff, by the way, and 25% cast speed. That is a lot on an item. Wait, actually, it's even more than that. It's like 86. Yeah, that's like very comparable.
Now, it's a wand, so you get the crit multi-passive. Yeah. It's cool.
The problem with it is Rune Bolt does no damage, so the whole point of it is to use it to make Rune Bolt do damage.
Is that the point?
Swap elements. I mean, I would hope that they would assume that people were going to play Rune Bolt damage because Rune Bolt has damage in its tree, even though it does no damage.
It's got like a tiny bit of more multipliers in the tree.
Yeah, like I think that if they didn't mean Rune Bolt to do damage, I don't know what they were doing with the tree then. If it was only meant for utility, like it's confusing me because like even Maelstrom does damage, right? Like it's like super utility. So, but yeah, like you're just gonna use it with Rune Bolt. You're gonna cast like different spells to get the numeromancy. You just need a flicker between 2 different types, and you're just gonna get insane amount of flat damage. And you're just gonna use it for that kind of build, like for instance that plasma orb build that freaking Amaranth you just played. This would be amazing on it because you just flip through the elements and constantly cast Rune Bolt, get a large flat damage modifier. It's a good item. It's just sad that Rune Bolt sucks, but whatever.
Are you putting this at C or B? It sounds like
B is fine. It's like on the same level that like Shattered Cycle is essentially. It's a different stats.
I want to try this out. I don't have so much to say about it. Like it's definitely not S. I don't think it's D. Like where does it belong in the middle of the pack here?
I think it's like on the same level as Shattered Cycle is. I think it's the same kind of stat stick. It's just a different flavor of stat stick.
I'm gonna put it a little bit lower than these other things. I suspect that it's not garbage. I'm gonna put it like right under Fraser Tree.
It's an amazing stat stick. If you're using Rune Bolt for utility, it's an amazing stat stick. It's just
we're gonna move on to one other item, which is it's hard for me to talk about Abacus Rod and casting Rune Bolt without talking about Mad Alchemist Ladle.
I know.
Because Mad Alchemist Ladle it's kind of like an Abacus Wand, except it's insane. And it kind of eclipses the use cases where I'd want to be using Abacus Wand or Abacus Rod.
I mean, instead. I agree. That's a problem though.
Yeah. So like Mad Alchemist Ladle, it's got a bunch of ailments on it, and then it has more spell damage per negative ailment on the target, and then cast speed per intelligence.
We already know where it's going.
It goes as top of S tier.
Yep.
It's so good. Item. Is it too good? Is it too good?
Yes, it is too good. I think you'd have 6% more damage per ailment and it would still be good. I think you'd have 4% more damage per ailment and it would still be good.
Stop giving them ideas. It's really good. Yeah, I'm in love with
the best item of the patch by far with how much it's done. Like you saw it when I was playing Devotion, right? You saw those damage numbers.
It's so good. Like what if it didn't have its ailments on it? What if it didn't have armor shredded, electrify, poison, frailty stuff?
Worse. It would be very bad.
You think so?
I think.
What if you had to distort your build in order to include ailments?
I think it would be significantly worse. I think it would be like balanced. I think it would be balanced if it had that. It would be balanced.
Because then it'd be interesting. You'd be like, oh, I got to use this thing to get my.
I think the thing is, it's like you don't even have to like build into it much to get most benefit out of it. You know,
True.
So it's
true.
like.
The intelligence feels really good. Like the cast speeds per 2 intelligence.
I want that. I want that to stay.
Yeah,
that is cool.
Absolutely
I like that.
agree.
I think what you said. I think there are 2 different fixes. It can go to 4% more damage per ailment, and it would still be insanely strong, or it could get all those modifiers at the bottom taken off.
So how about
some of them?
How about just like you take off the mana gain on potion use?
I mean,
and we called it even
for that. Let's be real.
Call it even. Call it even. Just call it even.
So bad now.
Just take you're real bad. No one use it, okay?
Yeah, we don't really have to talk about this much. You already know how good ladle is.
Let's move on to another item here. I know you experimented with this a lot. This one's called Wrong Warp.
Oh boy.
I suspect that there's a couple ways that you can become like permanently invulnerable with this item. But it's awesome. I know you have some opinions on it, but I'm going to read it off real quick. It's got a good base type. It's a crystal wand, so it has mana on it. It says when you cast Teleport or Transplant, you randomly move within a small distance around yourself. You become immune to all damage for 1 second. You gain a buff that gives you 35 cast speed and 35 movement speed. When you cast Teleport or Transplant, you time lock enemies around your destination.
It's essentially freezing them.
You just freeze them. They stop moving, doing stuff.
They stop moving, doing stuff. Yep. It's a very brief amount, but it's really disruptive.
It's really nice. And then spell damage per movement speed. And then a bunch of cooldown for your I love it.
You need to reiterate that part. 3% spell damage per movement speed.
3% spell damage per 1. So how much movement speed are we getting? Like 100, 200?
I was getting to 160% with my Lich setup very easily.
So it's 3% per 1?
Yep, that's like
400. Yeah, holy shit, that's a lot of damage.
Okay. So
go on.
This goes right under ladle.
And this is I'm just looking at this right now. It's not so most of these items are like 1% increased spell damage per 3 movement speed. This is 3% spell damage per 1 movement speed.
Is one of the strongest items in the entire game. Okay, essentially TLDR chat.
It's huge.
As someone who has played with Wrong Warp now, essentially, what Wrong Warp does is it takes your transplant or your teleport and you turn it into a gigantic stat stick and you trade it for movement speed. Like you're giving up the ability to use your movement skill.
Can you still use Reap as a Lich? You can.
Yeah, you can.
Holy moly.
Essentially, well, the thing is, what we found, by the way, when we were playing Lich with Reap and all that, is we were moving so fast, movement speed-wise, that it was actually a detriment to our speed using Reap. So it was just better just to walk.
Yikes.
But, so the problem, like the thing with this wand is it's very unhealthy for the game because you're going to have a bunch of mages and liches going at the speed of light now and be benefited for going at the speed of light, right? Like you're going to have like a static orb, lightning blast, sorcerer, or rune master that has like 800% increased damage and like a bunch of cast speed and moving at the speed of light through monoliths, and it's going to be toxic, and they're probably going to have to nerf movement speed. Essentially, if they don't nerf this, they're going to have to nerf movement speed. That is how this item is.
I'm getting the feeling that perhaps Mad Alchemist Ladle has eclipsed Wrong Warp.
It has.
You think maybe if Mad Alchemist wasn't in the game,
the only reason that Wrong Warp doesn't eclipse Mad Alchemist Ladle is because Wrong Warp specifically states transplant or teleport.
Yeah.
If it said any movement skill, it would have, but it doesn't, right? Yeah. So Alchemist Ladle definitely beats it in that regard.
I feel bad for not having used this item. Well, because like 450% movement speed or percent increased damage.
Yeah, it's a stat stick and a half. It's like everything about it is amazing and I love it. They managed to make teleporting at random beneficial for you somehow.
Well, it's also teleporting at random like within a small circle around your character, right?
Yeah, it is a very small circle. They could probably nerf it and make it more random. But like I think if they're gonna nerf it, I think first things off, it needs to go to 1-to-1, 1% increased damage for movement speed. I think like 3% per is absolutely busted, makes no sense, right?
I must have glazed over that the first time I read this item.
Yeah, that's the stupidest part about it, is like it benefits you for playing movement speed, and you want to be stacking movement speed anyway.
Is movement speed good?
You're like, yes, movement speed is good.
Holy moly.
And it gives you 35%. The wand itself, just think of the amount of stats it gives by itself.
And then it also gives 35% movement speed.
35% increased cast speed, and then it also gives you like 115% increased damage. It makes your teleport stun enemies nearby you. Like like what's not to love? What's
Does it
not
work
to
on
love? And
bosses
it's on a
too?
good
Can you
base.
can you
Yes, it works
freeze?
on
Can you time
bosses.
lock
Yes.
bosses?
Orbis is weird. He doesn't have an animation, but all the other bosses do.
Yeah,
Orbis, he just stands there looking funny, while like all the other bosses, they get frozen
just like
properly.
snap freeze. Gotcha.
Yeah, it's just
It gives
it's a
haste.
pair
It
of
gives
boots.
haste as well. Oh my
Yeah, I know
god.
it gets haste on hit. It's a pair of boots as a wand, and it like yeah,
Interesting. Okay, okay.
it's stupid. It's just absolutely stupid. I don't know why it got made into the game. It's stupid.
We have
It's yeah.
two more items to
The
talk about.
only thing that makes it worse is the fact it's specifically limited to Lich and
Well, I would
Mage.
say that
That's
Lich
it.
and Rune Master are two of the weakest classes in the game. So
Oh
it's
no
nice
no!
that they
What I
finally
mean
get some
is like
toys.
it would be much more what do you call it? Oppressive if it was outside of those classes too. That's what I
Gotcha.
meant. Like
Gotcha. Okay.
yeah.
Kind of like the other item that's slightly above it in the tier list. All right, we got two more items here. One of them, I had to look up the name of it because I literally don't know what it does. This is Rowan's Fortress. Rowan's Fortress is a, what is it? I don't even know. It's a two-handed staff.
staff.
Got it. So it's got very low flat damage on it. But,
Yep.
but it gives +1 spell damage with Runic Invocation, only Runic Invocation, per 10 armor or dodge or ward, whichever is the lowest.
So we can make this very quick, Perry. I'm gonna be honest with it. No clue until Runic Invocation is fixed.
No
You can
clue.
just put
Totally no.
put
I've got a
C
2
tier.
LP sitting around.
I just put it in C tier until Runic Invocation gets fixed.
I have
then we
no
can actually
idea what this
test
item
it.
does.
I think there's a way of building it. I think it's really strong, but like, I think it can be strong if you build around it. But like, without Runic Invocation, with Runic Invocation being the way it is right now, like I couldn't fucking tell you what it was.
So I think what you're doing with this is like you're stacking dexterity. You're probably going Morning Frost, and you're stacking dodge, because your armor
There is-
you're gonna get enough.
yeah.
You're gonna get enough armor. You're gonna get enough ward. Dodge is going to be your lowest. So this is a dodge item.
There is a build that has been going around in my DMs of other people where you could get well over 3k of each very easily, and very easy, specifically with what Incarian said, the flat dodge per heo. And if you don't know, that flat damage and all that snapshots to the next cast. It doesn't just like turn off before you
Gotcha,
cast.
gotcha.
So like it works. It's supposed to function that way. And you can very easily get well over like 300 flat with your
So
next
is this like a blizzard build, like cold?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's a build I want to play because I have two LP ones. It's just I can't play it right now because guess what? Runic Invocation is bugged.
Because there's a
fuck.
couple bugs in the game. Gotcha.
Yeah. So
All right.
I think it'll be a really strong item for a very specific build, but I think that merits it being C tier once we actually get to play around with the fucking thing.
We'll leave it down on C tier. Someone in Twitch chat just said Bastion of Honor is not on the tier list.
It's technically new.
That's my joke now. That is hold on. That's my joke. I made it. I'm taking it. Bastion of
It's
Honor.
a new item. We
Bastion
can
of Honor.
talk
Put it like C tier. Niche.
Let's get through this, shall we?
All right.
The
Very
pizza's
last.
staring at me.
Have you not eaten your pizza yet?
No, I'm waiting.
Oh my goodness, dude.
I'm being nice.
You're making me feel guilty all of a sudden. All right. The very last item. Control F. Cleaver. There we go. Done.
Oh, okay. So this item, I'm gonna be honest, like it deserves its spot right under Wrong Warp. We just still haven't cracked it yet.
Oh, I love it.
There's so many, like it's so easy.
What
Essentially, if
an
you don't know what it
awesome
does,
item.
What it does is it sets. This is very specific to know. It sets your intelligence to your strength. So, like for instance, if you have 20 intelligence and 60 strength, it would set it to 60 intelligence, 60 strength. If you had 60 strength and 80 intelligence, it would set it to 60 strength, 60 intelligence. So you cannot stack intelligence with this item. You have to stack strength.
I love this item.
Whoa, 1 second.
Well, something's happening in the background. I'm going to read the rest of this item while Dread takes care of that. This item also has flat strength on it, plus 3 to 9. It's got a good chunk of melee physical damage. Very respectable. It's about on par with what you would get with like a tier 5 melee physical damage roll on a good base type. It also has more damage to bleeding enemies. It's not more bleed damage. It's just more damage. So generic applies to everything. And last but not least, +1 to all skills. Like +1 to all skills. You can reach one more modifier, get one more quality of life, one more second piece of cooldown. It's a really nice thing to have. My issue with this is that every build that I seem to brainstorm with the Cleaver solution is like, it's a primalist, probably a werebear. It is using Fragment of the Enigma, trying to make use of the intelligence on a different class, but Fragment by itself is it's not quite a good enough justification, in my opinion. It's close. I don't think it's quite good enough to be the only use for intelligence. Or it's like, it's maybe like what's the word for it? The Twisted Heart, like getting a bunch of intelligence gives you ward retention, so your Twisted Hearts make you even tankier, or you're using it with like Vessel of Strife. So I don't know how much there is to do outside of those couple things. I like those things. I think they're strong. I think they're fun and interesting to build around. I'm a part of me as a hipster. I want to know what else is going on. Bleed Paladin Ward is OP. We saw Volca is part of the Maxwell team. He did a Vessel of Strife Bleed Hammer Throw build with this. I thought it was very cute using the intelligence along with Vessel of Strife, building some health regeneration. I love that. You think it's not even S tier in Werebear? I love this item. Can't wait to see more people try it on. The game was not ready for Cleaver. It's going to be triple S tier at some moments. God bless. I don't know. Like, I guess I haven't done my own research to know exactly how good it is in Werebear. The Werebear builds, like the very high investment Werebear builds that I've seen, where like you're using the intelligence to, you're getting strength to give you adapted damage for your spells. And I guess your intelligence is really only giving you ward retention for going low life. It's fine. Like, it's nice to not be relying on crows when you're going low life. That's a really nice thing to have. I was talking about going low life with the with this axe. Oh, where did I put it? I was talking about going low life with a clever solution on a blade dancer, but I couldn't really come up with a good justification for it. Like, if there was something that scaled with intelligence, we talked about like going low life, using it for ward retention, going blade dancer, and then using spark charges. Technically, I have a build planner that I'm interested in playing low life spark charges on a blade dancer, but I don't know, man. I love this item. I love it so much. You're back? What? You're in the Discord call, my friend. Wait a minute. Oh, you're not. Got it. Hello?
Okay. All right.
Back in, what? Get back in here.
The cat accidentally scratched the girl, the wife. So
Gotcha.
We're back. Cat trying to ruin the podcast. It didn't like what I had to say about the acid flask unique. All right. Okay. Where are we at?
I was talking about. I don't. No, I'm dragging it around.
Oh, okay.
I love this item. Twitch chat is pushing back on my love for this item.
What?
I love it. Is it S tier?
No, it is. Yes. Have you seen the Werebear planners? What the heck?
So good.
Have you seen the Werebear planners?
I've seen the build planners for it. We talked about Werebear, we talked about Vessel of Strife, Twisted Heart. Talked about trying to use like intelligence for spark charges in your offhand.
I think it's less than S tier. I think you're cooked. I'm sorry. I think it's it's up there. It has the problem is it's a high investment item, and Twitch chat, they really don't have high investment items.
It's so unique. It's so unique, and it's so good, and it has the best name. It does have a good name.
Mm-hmm.
I want more use cases.
I think it is S tier. I think
is this the kind of item that's like only going to get better and better with time?
Yes, this is the kind of item that is like you build your entire build around. It is ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. It is like, I think it's S tier. I'm gonna be honest. I think it's S tier. I don't care what chat says. It's S tier.
You think it's S tier? So I think it's S tier. If we had like these boots, if these boots are in S tier, mm-hmm. Does this belong in S tier as well?
Yes, very easily so.
How much stronger is Werebear? How much stronger is Werebear with it versus without it?
Much stronger. Like, you're going from like the thing is, okay. The thing with this item is it's very low investment. Thank you, Volca. Woohoo! Thank you, Volca. 20k Sable War with a Werebear. Yeah, that sounds great, man.
So good.
goodness.
It makes me want to use exsanguinous in a way that I've never used
surprised
exsanguinous
we're
before.
Even talking about this, I am actually hella surprised that we're even like questioning the validity of this placement.
Well, the question posed in chat is like, how much better is Werebear with this than without it?
Much better.
What a little
infinite and like ridiculous amounts of ward. Ward is really strong right now, guys.
Why is ward so strong? What happened?
They started adding uniques called like Vessel of Strife and Twisted Heart. Like they started doing stuff. Like this worked, like just what Valinov said, this works really well with low life, like really, really well. This makes up for a lot of low life's weaknesses. Like it's like it's I don't know. I guess we're crazy because like no, I don't think we're crazy, man. If I'm crazy for thinking this is an S tier, then I'm crazy, man.
Where are we putting this item? Is it the bottom of S tier or is it under wrong ward?
I think it's like right above fundamental criterion.
Do you think it belongs right here?
Yeah, it's up there. It is literally up there.
I like brainstorming.
Also, guys, red rings exist. This essentially
no, they don't. Don't talk to me. Why don't I have one
yet? They don't exist if you're parry. But still, like, come on, guys. Like,
I wish I had one.
This is ridiculous. It's ridiculous in so many different situations.
I like brainstorming with the Cleaver solution so much more than I like brainstorming with chronostasis. Chronostasis makes me feel like I'm getting dumber every time that I think about it. This item is like, it makes me like glowy eyed, staring at the ceiling, daydreaming. Like, it's so cool.
Yeah. I think, like, I'll be honest, I question your validity of your knowledge of the game if you're telling me that, like, this is bad.
It makes you more intelligent. It does make you more intelligent. It makes, big smart, big brain.
But yeah, I'm
going to leave it up there.
I think that's the last one, is it, right?
It is. If this is wrong, I don't want to be right. I'm going to leave it right there.
I agree.
I'll take it. So this
it's
has
not
been
even personal opinion. This is just like everyone in the Maxwell too all believe this too. So it's not just me.
So we're gonna put it down. Oh wait, should we put it like down here?
Where? What?
What if we like rearrange the list and then we took a screenshot of it for the YouTube thumbnail?
Yes, go right ahead.
Just like put it like this one. Yeah. This one's kind of down here.
Yeah, do that real quick. Yeah.
And then like what about?
No, you're doing it so that you don't nerf them. That's
all. Oh, right? Okay. So we'll do this one. Okay.
Oh, no. We want that to get changed. We want that one to get changed.
Okay. So put all the bad items. Yeah. I already regret doing this. Hold on. I'm gonna put it back. I already regret everything that I've done. Shoot. What did we? Was this right? This is right.
You know what? This is funnier.
I messed up the entire thing.
One on top. You gotta put the acid flask one on top. Okay. How about this? You do that whole thing, but you put the acid flask one on top.
This one right here, like this.
Yeah. You just do that, and let me take a snap.
Wait, is this right? Did I mess it up?
No. Wait.
This is right.
I'm waiting for it. Yeah, that one.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah, this is good.
There. I had to wait for the stream. There you go. Beautiful. Best thumbnail ever. Thank you.
All right, we're not quite 2 hours, but it's been a great time. So we talked about all the unique items are added in 092, along with our thoughts about various other things, including bugs and unintended interactions. But this has been fun. I always underestimate how much fun these tier lists are going to be, but I really enjoy doing this. So Dread, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you, buddy.
Yep.
If you're watching here live on Twitch, thank you for sharing your opinions. It's excellent to have some audience participation. Right after this, we're going to be talking about the voting for the Builds of Power contest. If you don't know what that is, make sure you type in !1 contest in chat or visit my Discord. There's a lot of information there too. If you are listening to this on YouTube or Spotify, make sure to let us know where you are watching it, where you're listening to it, so we can make sure that your listening and viewing experience is as good as possible. And like always, thanks for being here. We'll see you next time.
Bye.